Hello, thanks for joining me. My name's Ronnie, and I'd like to share a few ideas about a healthcare policy I'm proposing that will reduce the incidence of new substance abusers and offer accessibility, affordability, and quality care for those seeking substance abuse treatment. I like to call it the Huber Healthcare Policy, taking on the U.S. healthcare epidemic. Did you know that in 2011, over 200 million prescriptions for addictive pain medications were written in the U.S.? The following year, it was reported that 23 million people required substance abuse treatment. However, only 2.5 million actually received it. With numbers like this, it should come as no surprise that the United States leads the world in prescription drug abuse. What is happening in this nation that has allowed so many citizens to become addicted to drugs and alcohol, and what can we do about it? In order to find solutions, we first need to take a look at the problems. Online pharmacies are everywhere and can deliver highly addictive narcotics right to your front door. While many may be reputable businesses, unfortunately hundreds more are not. No prescription? No problem. A recent study found 735 online pharmacies offered opioids to patients without a prescription. And some online pharmacies even use their own physicians to evaluate your condition and prescribe. The bad news is they may be practicing in other parts of the world. Low socioeconomic status is a known contributor to healthcare disparities. Finding quality treatment programs that are affordable is a challenge. These individuals often struggle with high stress and low social support. As you might expect, healthcare costs of substance abusers are twice as high as non-substance abusers, and this leads to a higher overall cost of healthcare for everyone. So what happens when someone decides to seek treatment? Well, when a patient requests service, an appointment is made for a needs assessment on a later date. So stop. Do you see where we could lose a few people at this point? 50% of individuals seeking treatment fail to keep appointments they have to wait a week for. In comparison, those who receive same-day access to treatment are 2 to 3 times more likely to show up for an appointment. And what about the recovery itself? Opiate withdrawal is a slow process, and frequently additional medications are introduced to help with treatment. However, the federal government has a tight rein on these potentially addictive medications. Physicians must undergo special training just to prescribe them, and they must maintain meticulous documentation throughout the patient's treatment. It's an exhausting process, and not surprisingly, only 1/3 of physicians who are allowed to prescribe it actually do. So to stop this epidemic, we all need to be on board, but what can we do? Let's start with those online pharmacies. I propose we limit their filling privileges. Addicting medications can only be purchased through brick-and-mortar buildings where face-to-face encounter take place between the pharmacist and the patient. Because publicly subsidized treatment is chronically underfunded, I also propose the federal government should be providing incentives. Let's start with the primary care physician. They're the first line to provide interventions and encourage referral to tertiary care facilities for these high-risk patients. We may be able to reach more people that way. To facilitate recovery, we could streamline the process from registration to admission by providing complete same-day enrollment and evaluation under one roof. Residential treatment should include in-house case management for technical training and housing assistance. But how can we get the pharmaceutical companies involved in controlling the medications that bring in so much money? More money, of course. What if we provide incentives to encourage the development of safer medications? Perhaps drug manipulation may be able to eliminate the addictive elements. Some companies are currently working on developing a container that releases an antagonist once the bottle is opened, thus reducing the shelf life of the medication inside. Lastly, these same pharmaceutical companies can help with those tight restrictions placed on addictive medication assistance. Naltrexone is a medication that acts by hindering the effects of the opioid. And unlike other addiction medications, there's a far less likelihood the drug can be abused. More research does need to be done on this medication before it can be formally introduced. And I propose we award grants to programs researching potentially valuable addiction medications like naltrexone. By eliminating these unscrupulous online pharmacies, streamlining the treatment registration process, and increasing funding for accessibility and research, the Huber Healthcare Policy will help to increase the quality of life for all who struggle with substance abuse disorders. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope you've enjoyed the presentation.
Created using Powtoon.